Despite the persona of the wisecracking smarty pants having been done to death on the platform that is YouTube, when it came to the unveiling of the game A Bumpy Ride, the debut title by Cosmoporium Games, I was predictably skeptical. Here was the unteenth cozy train game dropped into our laps without a release date, but at least with a demo to get a wee taste of what set this one apart from all the others. Now, I know I'm already sounding vastly too cynical for a channel that talks about either real railways or makes animations about what amounts to a grown man throwing his action figures at each other, but at this point, those really were my initial thoughts. What does set this cozy train game apart from all the others? Far too frequently do cozy train games just rely on the trains being, for lack of a better word, kawaii, to the detriment of the depth of the game. First impressions are important, and you can never make another first impression, which is a perfect opportunity to point out that A Bumpy Ride looks like every other cozy train game, yet it has a very major ace up its sleeve. The game is seemingly styled, big cursor and click and drag controls and all, like a Nintendo DS game. Low poly models, a MIDI soundtrack, and the just ever so pixelated art style means that for late millennials and early zoomers, this game should feel like something they've already played. To me, it harkens back to the Toy Story games on the N64 and later the DS, which are some of the best licensed platformers on those systems, don't at me. There is also just something about A Bumpy Ride which reminded me of Incredible Express, an early version of the cozy train game which I've covered years ago. But I think the biggest deviation from conventions, whereas most cozy train games put you in charge as the route builder and traffic controller, A Bumpy Ride has you be the driver. Upon opening the game for the first time, I met with a reference to the best original song from the original 1941 Dumbo. We're in for a good time, I think. You have two controls, being your two speed steps for forward and one for reverse, which also acts as your emergency brake, and your whistle. Your only resource is your water gauge level. Almost every station has a water tower, so realistically you're only really at risk of running dry if you don't just refuel at every other station at the very least. There is a first tutorial as to be expected. Now, I really don't want to paint the picture of me being quite willing to not like this game because frankly, something about this game already oddly captivated me. But in the tutorial, when the game asks you to wait for a signal to clear, this tram chuffs on by, so my ape brain tells me, give the tram a whistle. So I did. Now imagine my surprise when, just as I gave it a hoot, the tram whistles back at me. I thought surely the tram was just coded to whistle when it passed me, and I thought nothing further of it. But halfway up the hill you're introduced to these so-called law signs calling you to blow your whistle, marking the beginning and end of a speed restriction, or warning of cattle on the track. Being a law-abiding driver, I blow the whistle, and once again the tram responds with a whistle of her own. And that was it. 2 minutes into the tutorial, this was the aha moment. From that moment on, I knew I was going to thoroughly enjoy this game. After making a round trip on Tutorial Island, you exit the yard and pick up your first real fare-paying passengers. Your map is left blank save for this loop of track. I already take slight issue with the button mapping here. Pressing M opens the map, but you have to press M again to close it. I kept pressing escape to exit the map, which opens up the pause menu. This is completely unnecessary as opening the map already effectively pauses the game, as your train stops in place and the timer freezes. Pressing escape, therefore, should also close the map, and once out of the map you should be able to go to the pause menu. It's not a matter of muscle memory, it's a matter of consolidation. How's that for a train pun? After headbutting this log for about 2 minutes I discovered this drawbridge, which is also powered by a steam engine. Details like this are completely unnecessary, and if it hadn't been there, I wouldn't have given the bridge opening and closing a second thought. But just the fact that they show the bridge being powered by the same chibi style steam engine as your loco or the trams makes me really appreciate this art style. Speaking of art style, you'll love this. This is cute. All the people in this world are chibi animals. So when you're met with a law sign warning of cattle on the track, it's just a group of literal cow girls wandering about the field. What do you even want me to say? It's brilliant. Sun's setting, so it's about time we drop off our final passengers. On my way back though, I get the opportunity to turn around at this triangular junction, also called a Y, but my dumb brain tells me to actually keep going backwards through the woods. Then suddenly the game zooms in on the darkness further down the track, the music comes all eerie and the clock becomes illegible. I was not supposed to be in this area and the game let me know rather swiftly, so I throw her into full forward and GTFO. I know this is a cozy game, but when cozy game suddenly becomes all gloomy once you enter the woods, that can logically only mean one of two things. Either there's a cute, misunderstood monster hiding in those woods who's just too shy to come out and say hi, or eldritch horror. No in between. After making it back to the station, you can either let the time run until 10 PM, or you simply enter the roundhouse to finish it then and there. At the end of each day, you get a slip with your performance and your pay, which you can either choose to spend in the store, or you can continue with the next day of service. In the shop, you can purchase upgrades for your train, members of staff to act as buffs, or you can purchase reskins for your locomotive. Whilst the upgrades are perfectly logical, the buffs from staff make it so passengers don't care about you not hitting law signs, or give you the opportunity to not have to gradually slow when approaching a station, which honestly kinda cheapens whatever skill expression this game has. This is where that depth issue I mentioned begins, but also mostly ends, so we'll leave that as it is for now. The reskins for your loco are fine, they're cute. There's this one called Lil Bell, designed by a guy called Walter, and damn it game, is this just how it's gonna be? Never apologise for a pun, I know, but at least go sit in the corner and think about what you've done with this one. After avoiding the tracks running straight into the bayou, I eventually discovered you can reenact the best scene from the Polar Express and you can run straight through the water. But then there's this rock blocking the line heading into the canyon, and you know what? If I can't even shove a branch out of the way, I'm not even going to attempt something with this here boulder. I eventually figured out that if you hire the fireman, your train runs faster, and this was indeed the speed boost my train needed, and after running over some logs and boulders, I now have access to hands down the best biome in the game, the desert. Your water drains twice as fast here, which is a problem as not every station has a water tower, and the stations are quite far apart. Nevertheless, this area seems to take heavy inspiration from the Central Colorado Railroad's Georgetown loop, which in real life also had tiny trains running around. Oh look, I earned another reskin. I came across this tunnel, but the tunnel required me to get a better headlamp. So the game pulls the same trick it did in the forest, where it turns me around and lets me move off chimney first. But this is where I encountered my first and only bug when playing a Bumpy Ride, where my rear carriage just rolls off on its own. I also discovered this bear blocking the way to the snow biome, and after the game tells me to get a gondola to transport some honey to said bear, I somehow forgot that it was in fact the gondola I needed and bought a caboose instead. After discovering the upgrade for the lamp, I can now enter the spooky forest where I eventually find the gondola. This creates the game's final consist: a second-class carriage, a first-class carriage, a gondola, and a caboose which can also be upgraded. With the 2 crew members the caboose allows me to take along, I chose for the fireman and the guard at first, which makes passengers have a higher percentage to pay the first-class fee. But I can now add the gondola to the train, so I chose the freight manager instead, which makes it so I have 2 delivery options whenever I stop at a freight depot. Can you believe it? A cozy game where you can weigh 2 genuine strategies against one another. Speaking of strategy, this is the perfect moment to actually go into the mechanics of the gondola. When you stop at a factory, you can, with the help of the freight manager, choose to either deliver just the item of cargo you just received from the factory, or you have to collect 1 or 2 other products from the other factories spread around the map before eventually delivering everything to a single station. Just a single item of freight pays about the same as a first-class passenger, but 3 items gets you way more than even an average full passenger train. Ergo, you can bank on a train full of passengers all paying first class and needing to go to a single station not too far from where you are picking them up, or you can run around the whole of the map to try and gather all the cargo. It is another instance of strategy expression. Do you bet things will pay out for you in the short term, or do you take the more challenging option for a guaranteed larger payday? Delivering freight goes beyond trundling from A to B to C though. Certain loads have their own challenges. Fruit bruises as the journey goes on, ice melts and melts twice as fast in the desert biome, dynamite, well, explodes. The honey jar shatters when the train rounds a bend too fast, hay bales don't handle speed step 2 very well and after a few seconds they dissipate, and cheese will get you on the radar of the cheese bandits, with this hot air balloon chasing you to try and snatch the cheese from your wagon. The balloon travels about the same speed as the train's first speed step, however travels in a straight line. The only way to shake them off is by travelling at speed step 2. I think it is very deliberate the dairy farms on a straight section of track allowing you to get a head start. Ideally you get 2 innocuous items of cargo and then either pears, ice or cheese in one load, but wouldn't you know it, I got all those 3 in my first contract. The pears went bad trying to shake off the bandits, and the cheese was stolen before I could enter the ice biome. Speaking of the ice biome, you bring the bear his honey and you make your way up to the largest town on the map, Aurora, which is not shy about taking heavy inspiration from the North Pole from the original Polar Express illustrations. The track plan of the snowy mountains is so windy though that I failed to bring my passengers to their destination on time, causing them to disembark, and I just crawled into the roundhouse near Aurora out of shame. And that's credits. So what is there left to say about A Bumpy Ride? It has charm, it has depth, it references Drew Gooden, which is a bonus no matter what way you slice it. Roses. It tells you your options without then holding your hand. It allows for strategy, but does lend itself perhaps a bit too well to min-maxing. I think this Steam review by user Nerva Matapan said it best. The game isn't just a cutesy Animal Crossing style platform with trains layered on, it's more of the opposite. A train game that happens to be cute. And whilst I could layer it on thick, like my accent, how much the progression system in this game gives a player much to strive for, here is where the negative section of the video begins. Your experience with the game, where challenge is concerned, peaks at the very early stages. The upgrades, bar the additional passengers, all make the game even more laid back, which then gives way to notice the other shortcomings easier. The game struggles to be engaging for long periods of time due to the simplicity of specifically the passenger mechanic. Yes, a game can both provide valid internal debates where strategy is concerned and be too cyclical at the same time. Those are not mutually exclusive. Far too often have I noticed myself being sent from the grassland town, to the bayou town, to the big desert town, to the wee desert town, to end up at a station appropriately called nowhere to repeat the cycle the next day. Only occasionally will a full trainload of passengers picked up at the same station have tickets to go to separate destinations. 9 times out of 10, all passengers picked up from a single station all want to go to the same place. This allows the player to set the most efficient routes which skip the other stations, especially in the desert biome, which is by far the largest. I hope you can see where I'm going with this. Whole trainloads want to go to the same destination, which can be reached the fastest by skipping other stations, meaning less route planning is ultimately needed when compared to trainloads consisting of passengers which all want to go to different stations. Luckily, the freight mechanic goes against this and adds well-needed challenge. The music, while delightful, is going to make me kill myself. I couldn't play this game without either my own music or another YouTube video playing in the background to prevent such a tragedy, which is why all my footage has been muted so far. Still, I wouldn't be against purchasing the soundtrack if it ever got put up on Steam. The DS-style pixelation gets really hard to look at for a prolonged period of time, as everything is actually fully detailed under the filter, causing the finer details like windowsills to flicker in accordance with the position of the camera. Luckily, there is an option to turn it off, much like the music. As I was writing this, I discovered another bug, where you can flip the switch to a set of points, but the direction won't change. You have to flip the switch again, and only then does the direction actually change. You can unlock skins for your 420, but no actual alternate models beyond a change in headlight and chimney style. Judging by the Steam reviews, this isn't an original criticism, as many people are asking the game to be updated with more train models, as there are already multiple other models in the game. But a particular favourite seems to be a request for British-built locos. British trains are famously small and to many people already very cute. Not every game needs to be a live service, I know, but I think I speak for all of us when I say solely sticking to the 420 was a massive missed opportunity. And finally, I feel this game hamstrung itself perhaps a bit too much by appealing to a specific crowd of people, being rail enthusiasts who played the Legend of Zelda Spirit tracks in the early 2010s. I simply don't think this game has staying power among the cozy game crowd for being just a bit too tailored for the people who already know a fair bit about trains, but then too easy to min-max. But all of that might be nothing but conjecture, in fact I hope it is. I of course would love it to see the train game of all things become the next cozy game indie darling. But most of all, I hope the early days of post-release don't prove to be a flash-in-the-pan hit. I want people taking the good things from A Bumpy Ride just as much as I want more A Bumpy Ride, if that makes sense. Cosmoporium, you've done a stellar job. Like I said, unlike most cute train games, you've got a good thing on your hands and I implore you to not let this fizzle out. I want to give this game a 10. I really want to, but it just manages to fall ever so short of perfection at almost every turn. So, have a 9. Take it or leave it. I'm not in the position to ask for more, but if I like this game as it is, I would love what it can be. You've captured my heart, A Bumpy Ride. Now capture my playtime.